All right, so picking up where we left off, we added a meta viewport tag to our HTML file in our recipes document, our recipes webpage. And now we're looking at an iPhone view, and trying to get our site styled correctly. So as you can see, the iPhone is zooming properly, the mobile device is zooming properly, which is what we want, but it's still not positioned right. We're still seeing text being cut off, and it's just still not right yet. So what we need to do is we need to work with some media queries. And we can work with these in our existing recipes CSS site. We can just put them down at the bottom. And a media query is just the declaration telling the CSS interpreter to apply these rules based on a media device information contained in the media device. So that could be, is this browser a screen or is it a projector or a printer? Is this device at least 1,000 pixels wide? Is this device less than 320 pixels wide? And what this allows us to do is this allows us to direct specific CSS rules at different media types, basically. So at different browsers, at different media versions like printers or projectors, like I said before. So it gives us a lot of power in kind of directing our CSS rules where they're most used, and then on normal browsing experiences, they're mostly ignored. So with the rule that I have set up here, our browser is going to ignore this rule unless the screen resolution is smaller than 320 pixels. So this is the resolution of our iPhone here. This is a non-retina display iPhone. It's just a standard iPhone. So any additional CSS we put in here will be reflected on this iPhone, but not on the main page here. So another thing to point out is in our media query, let's see if that's zoomed enough. So in our media query here, it's just like a normal HTML rule. So we're going to nest our rules inside of this. So we have an opening and closing bracket, and we're going to add additional rules inside of that. So the first rule I know we're going to need to change is our container, because if we come up here and look at our container, we set a width of 800 pixels. We're very specific about that width. It's not a flexible value. It's 800 pixels wide is 800 pixels wide, and there isn't anything we can do about that. So that's why our iPhone here is still behaving like it's 800 pixels wide, because it's explicitly being told to. So we actually want to remove both of these rules in our container for our media size with a screen resolution of less than 320 pixels, screen size less than 320 pixels. So we can set this width to 100% because we want that to be flexible, and we can just set the margin, and we can just set the margin to 0. So let's save that and refresh our page and see what we have. So that's looking a little bit better. As you can see, now with the exception of a few things, as you can see here, our width is still off a little bit. So in our header, obviously our logo is not centered. That's a problem. Our dish could be centered. Our background image could be centered a little bit better, and we might actually be able to change the original CSS there. But as you can see here, look where our text is wrapping. So that is right. We have a small small margin on each side, and our text is wrapping properly, and so is this. And it's also an acceptable size, so that's good for reading. Now, the only things that aren't in place are our video is still too big, and our header is messed up. So we need to work on what's going on with the header. So let's tackle that header first, because that will really make it better once it's actually no. Let's get this image centered quickly, and then we can go back and attack the header. So the reason this image is off center is because we are not explicitly telling the browser where to position it. So what we can do is we can add some additional parameters to our background rule here to tell it to keep it centered and at the top. And what this will do is our full site will remain unchanged, but on the iPhone, if we refresh this here, you'll see our image move to the center because now we're explicitly telling it it's going to stay at the center. The default is left, I believe, so that's why it would have looked how it did before, just like that. So we want to override that setting and make it appear in the center. So there we go. We didn't even have to add that to our media queries. That was just a rule we could change that works in both situations. So that's the best way to do it, is if you can just write one rule that covers all situations, that's ideal. And that was a good case of where that works out. So now we're pretty much on our way. We just have to deal with the header up here and then our video playback area. So let's take care of this header. And if we look at our H1 tag, which is what that header is, if you guys remember, we did some text replacement here. So this is actually an image background, and we're actually indenting the text so far that it just shows the image, thus making, our logo appear instead of the H1 tag, but we're preserving the semantic value of the H1 as well as the kind of Google juice we get from having a level 1 header with our logo and name in it. So we need to fix this. Look, again, we have a fixed width, and we want to get rid of that. The height can stay 100 pixels because it's okay. We can have a fixed height. But these fixed widths just are not going to work. So what we need to do is we need to create another H1 tag. And we need to change this width as well and give it a width of 100%. Now let's see what that does. Okay, didn't really do a whole lot, and there's a couple reasons for that. So the H1 width is still centered properly, but if you'll notice, we're still running into the same background problem. So what we really should do is put a center top rule on this H1 again, which shouldn't affect the large site, but on our mobile site, it pops right into the middle. And now we have a pretty responsive website. So this same website will look good at both resolutions, and you can check that out here as well. Oh, I don't think I'll be able to get down far enough. That's all right. So we still have to deal with our video tag, and in the next video we will we'll shore up this video down here and finish off our responsive design for recipes for our recipes.html.